Have you heard tales that make you wonder whether there really are demons?
After this book came out, I began to hear a lot of stories from my readers, including I'm getting correspondence from readers who said they are Nephilim. But some of the stories relate to the sensitivity of dogs and sensitivity of children able to say that certain people are bad. One story I heard was from a woman who had a contractor come into her house to do some renovations. And while he was in her house, her son, who was 5 years old, came running into the door, looked at this man, and pulled his mother out of the room and said, "Mommy, that's a very, very bad man." Then the family dog came in, and the dog backed up with its hair, you know, standing on end, and was growling, and she said she did not know what any of this meant. A few months later, the man was arrested for severely beating up his wife. And I've heard story after story along these lines. You know, when I was dating age, I was always told that if your dog does not like your new boyfriend, you should pay attention to your dog. So I do wonder sometimes whether there is a scent of aggression. There's a sort of a difference about certain people who are out to do us harm that animals and maybe young children are able to identify.
You have a well-publicized website and blog. Has this changed the way you write? And do you feel closer to your fans?
Well, there are things that my fans ask for, and there are common themes that I hear from them that do make me wonder about the direction of my book sometimes. As an example, in the Mephisto Club there is a relationship that has been developing for a number of books between Maura Isles and a certain Catholic priest named Daniel. They have been friends for a while, and I've gotten so much mail from my women readers, and I think of all the letters I get from my readers, it's always, you know, almost predominantly about this relationship. Women saying, when are they going to have an affair? When are they going to get married? Are they going to get married? And by the way, my priest ran off with a local woman in my town. So I got so many letters about that relationship that I decided it was time to address it, and that's what I do in the Mephisto Club.
What do you love to read?
I love to read historical novels. I do get to read a lot of thrillers because I get galleys sent to me by publishers. But when I'm on vacation, I will read something like a book by Philippa Gregory or Robert Harris. So I think that my own entertainment tastes tend to be away from the genre that I'm working on. It may be because I get sort of tired of crime thrillers after having spent a long day dealing with death and murder.
Are you working on something at the moment? And if so, what have you got to look forward to in your next thriller?
I am working on something that's out of the series. It's going to be a one-off, and it is about medicine in the 1830s. It is, I could call it a serial killer novel that takes place in an era of medical horrors. Back in the 1800s, there were no antibiotics, there was no anesthesia, so you can imagine how terrible it was to get an amputation done. All they could do is hold you down screaming. But in particular, I was fascinated by something called childbed fever, in which women who were pregnant would go into the hospital to have their babies, and within 2 weeks they would have died of a really horrible death. Women were dying so quickly that they were burying them to a coffin. They could not build the coffins fast enough. And the horrifying part of it was that it was the doctors who were spreading this disease. They were killing entire wards of women. So I thought, you know, medicine at that time, in and of itself, is a pretty scary story. If you throw in a serial killer into that atmosphere, I think it'd be pretty gripping. So that's the next book.